Dear Gabe, the drugs help me bend my fingers around a pen. Sometimes the whole sickness feels located in my hands. I have wanted to write, but not by dictating to your father. Later, I don't want to whisper last-minute messages to him at the bedside. With all the panic and breathlessness, I'll have too much influence. Now your father keeps leaning across my bed. He runs in after every patient and tells me what the weather is outside. He never once admits that I've done him an injustice being his wife. He holds my hand 50 times a day. None of this changes what has happened. The injustice is done. Whatever unhappiness has been in our family springs from me. Please, don't blame it on your father, however I may have encouraged you over the years. Since I was a little girl, I always wanted to be very decent to people. Other little girls wanted to be nurses and pianists. They were less dissembling. I was clever. I picked a virtue early and hung on to it. I was always doing things for another's good. The rest of my life I could push and pull at people with a clear conscience. All I want to say now is that I don't want to say anything. I want to give up the prerogative allowed normal dying people. Why I'm writing is to say that I have no instructions. Your father is coming in again. He's carrying 3 kinds of fruit juices. Gabe, it's to him I should admit all this. He won't condemn me until I do first. All through our marriage I've been improving his life for him, pushing, pulling. Oh, decent, decent. Dear, the pen keeps falling. Her letter had never been signed. The pen fell, and when the night nurse came on duty, she was no longer needed. Nevertheless, my father, obedient to the last, put the letter in an envelope and without examination mailed it. I was a second lieutenant in the artillery corps at this time, stationed in an unregenerate dust bowl in Oklahoma, and my one connection with the world of feeling was not the world itself, but Henry James, whom I had lately begun to read. Oklahoma nights and southwestern radio stations had thrust me into an isolation wherein my concentration was exact enough for me to attend at last to the involutions of the old master. All day I listened to the booming of cannons, and all night to the words of heroes and heroines tempting one another into a complex and often tragic fate. Early in the summer that I had been called into the Army, which was the summer after I had finished college, I had spent my last 6 civilian weeks touring Europe. 1 week was spent visiting with a friend of my mother's who lived in London, where her husband was connected with the U.S. Embassy. I remember having to hear endless incidents from my mother's childhood, while sitting with her friend in a small church in Chelsea. She had taken me there to see a little-known plaque dedicated to James. It was not a particularly successful day, for the woman really liked the idea of putting on long white gloves and showing a Harvard boy around cultural nooks and crannies a good deal more than she liked the nooks and crannies. But I do remember the words engraved onto that small gray oval tablet. It was written of James that he was lover and interpreter of the fine amenities of brave decisions. So it happened that when I received the letter my mother had written and my father had posted, I was reading Portrait of a Lady, and it was into its pages that I slid the envelopes and its single sheet of barely legible prose. When I returned from the funeral and in the weeks following, I read and reread the letter so often that I weakened the binding of the book. In my grief and confusion, I promised myself that I would do no violence to human life, not to another's, and not to my own.